Hey everyone, welcome. I'm going to give it just a few more seconds and then I'll go ahead and get started. Right, hi, welcome. I'm so glad you all are here. My name is Tara Lynn Pugh and I'm your host. Whoa, hold on 1 second. Crazy things are happening on my end. I think you're prepared and then. All right. So welcome. I'm your host for the New Year New Hobby Challenge. My name is Tara Lynn Pugh. I'm a mandala designer and a workshop facilitator. And I also run the Kaleidoscope Mandala Club, which is a monthly membership where we get together a few times a month and we make beautiful things. Every year I do this taster, this New Year New Hobby taster, where we kind of show you what things are like in the club, and this is my business, and obviously it would be wonderful if you joined, but honestly, I really just love sharing what I do, and I want to introduce some new people to this hobby. I've got over 10 years of experience in mandala design, and I've been an artist for my entire adult life. I have a huge passion for creativity, and one of the reasons that I make mandalas is because they help me tune out the noise of the outside world, of everything going on, of all the busyness and obligations and stress. They help me focus on quiet and repetition, and I find the process really soothing and healing. So every year I host this Do Your New Hobby, where I get to share my love about mandalas and introduce new people to the art form, which is easier than a lot of people think, and it's super addicting, and I absolutely love it. So this week we will be working on 5 beautiful designs inspired by snowflakes, and it's been really cold here. I'm in Cincinnati. It's been really cold here. We've had lots of snow, and snowflakes are kind of like nature's perfect tiny little mandalas. So I'm excited about this. We'll start by talking about some dot art basics. Each day we'll build upon our skills. And then, of course, if you are already a dot artist, if you know what you're doing, these are still fun designs, so stick with this. The videos, some people have asked, they will be available as replays for 1 week after the event ends. So you don't have to rush, you don't have to attend every day, but if you participate with us this week, we'll have some fun giveaways, and we'll have the opportunity to get to know each other. So I see some people making comments. Hi, everyone. Yeah, Heather says my background's dark. My background is dark because my art space is a mess. So you're blurry, but I will, when you see what we're working on, that won't be dark. Seeing that in a little bit. But speaking of giveaways, so for those of you who hopped on with me live at start time, I just wanted to say thank you. So I'm going to reach for my first little giveaway here. I've got just a journal with some of my artwork on it that I'm going to give away. So the way that I'll pick a winner, just go ahead and say hi in the comments, tell me where you're from. I'll throw some names onto a little post-it here, and then I will pick a winner. So go ahead and say hi in the comments. I'm writing everybody down as fast as I can. Kathy. All right, I got everybody that I saw commenting. I'm just gonna fold these in half. All right, and I've got this little cup here, and I'm just gonna kind of dig in there. Not look. And then what do I have? Tina M. Tina M. You get the journal. So Tina, if you were there. Yeah, the more Heathers, the better. Yay. Let's see what's the easiest way to do this. I'm going to put in the comments, I'm going to put my email. If you would, Tina, if you would email me and just throw the word journal in there and then your address, I will get that out to you. So that is in the comments. My email's in the comments. Congratulations. Tina, you want a journal. Yay. All right. So I will do one more giveaway today, and I'll give instructions for what you have to do to enter that at the end. So after the design, I will tell you. All right. What else? So lost my train of thought. Okay. So first of all, we are going to make a design tonight, and we need about a 6-inch surface. So if you have not yet done so, paint your background black. We can do that. We're going to paint in a few minutes. So if you haven't painted it black yet, go ahead and do that. I will walk you through everything. But the background being painted is important. So go ahead and get that done if you haven't. And I just want to set some ground rules. So the one rule I have, and it's super important, is that the rule this week is don't stress. Okay, have fun, use the supplies that you have, that you've gathered up. Don't spend a ton of money on stuff. The whole idea behind this is to try something new and see if you like it before you spend time and money investing in something. If you are brand new, don't aim for perfect. Think of this as your opportunity to practice, to give yourself a trial run. And especially if you're new, you'll see progression even over the 5 workshops. Dot art is a lot of practice. And so it's something that you learn little by little over time, and you will definitely see yourself getting better. So this week, it's all about trying something new and practicing. We're not aiming for perfect. So use this as an opportunity to play. In this first video, a lot of the beginning content is going to be tips and tricks and how to use your tools and that kind of thing. So let's go over the supply list and the tools and that kind of thing. I'll give you some information. So I'm going to switch here to my overhead view. So now you can see my desk. Give me 1 second. Okay. So the supply list here. First, you're going to need a surface to paint on. So as I talked about, you're going to need for the entire week, you're going to need 5 black painted canvases. These are 6 by 6 in size. Of course, you can use anything. It doesn't have to be. Sorry, my mom just texted me. I thought something was wrong. It doesn't have to be the 6 by 6 canvases, but the minimum size you're going to want is a 6 by 6 shape. As far as the paint goes, we are using black this week as our background, white for the design, and then you need a blue and a glitter, and it can be any blue. You can use different blues if you want to. It can be metallic, it can be whatever, but you're going to need blue and then some sort of glitter. Tonight I'm using, it can be silver, it can be whatever. So those are the paint colors. Now, let's talk about paint for a minute, because paint is super, super important. Paint is everything when you're working on dot mandalas. So if your paint isn't right, your dots are not going to be right. And I absolutely love the DecoArt Americana brand. I feel like it comes out of the bottle pretty perfect as far as dotting, as far as the thickness goes. And so I like to buy this because I feel like it's the best option for me. Other brands are good. There's no right or wrong. Sometimes you might have to thicken or thin some brands. But I've done dot art with the generic Craftsmart paint. I find it a little thin, but it works just fine. I've used the kind of professional thicken type of paint as well. You have to thin it, but it'll work. I feel like when you're making your dots that you want the consistency to be like melted ice cream, like a creamy milkshake, smooth and fluid and formless. And so let me show you here. I've got a little picture of what I'm talking about. So up at the top here is what we want our dots to look like. We want them smooth and round, and we want the paint to have a little thickness to it. If you'll see in the second dot, it's kind of, it looks like it's stamped. There's areas of unevenness, and that means there's not enough paint on the tool. You needed more paint. So don't be shy with paint. If you're getting kind of a Hershey kiss, it means that, like if it comes up to a volcano or a Hershey kiss, it's like too thick. You've got to thin it just a little bit. So the paint thickness makes a big, big difference. And so just keep an eye on that. Think of, like I said, a melted bowl of ice cream or some creamy milkshake. Okay, just something nice and thick but fluid. So I mentioned my go-to brand is DecoArt. It squeezes out perfect from the bottle. Other brands are fine to use. You might just have to Goldilocks and adjust the consistency to too thin, too thick, just right. Also, sometimes, and again, I don't expect anybody to go out and buy stuff. I will use this. I need to make it a little more fluid. This is Flood Floetrol. This is about $10 to $15 at Home Depot or Lowe's, and the purpose of this is to make the paint smooth. It works great with acrylic paint. That is an option for you if you need it. There are also additives you can use to make paint thicker, like gel medium, or there's a thickening agent called DecoArt Americana has it. It's called Make It Thick. But again, just play with what you have. In a pinch, you can even use a little bit of Elmer's glue or cornstarch. So lots of different ways you can play with the paint. You always want to practice a few dots before working on your piece. So let's do that. I'm going to use this one for practice here. And I'm just going to put a little bit of my paint out. I mentioned you need a weld palette or a paint palette. There's lots of different things you can use for that. You just need something with a little depth to it. So they have these at like craft stores and Dollar Tree. These are fine. I use these silicone fidget toys because they dry and you can just pop your paint out, and they're kind of fun. But I'll talk about tools in a second as well. But when we're making dots, we have things called dotting rods, and the rods are the tools that look kind of like this. Okay, they're straight, they're the same size on both ends. Sometimes they can look like this. It depends on the brand that you get. When you use dotting rods, you are going to hold them straight up and down at a 90-degree angle. That is important. So I want you, if you've not dotted before, I want you to just practice dipping into the paint. You are going to see, you want it to have, kind of like a little bubble on the end. Make sure there's plenty of paint on there. You're not going to win any points for saving paint. Okay. Let me show you what we're going to do. When you squish your paint, you just want to give it a gentle little kiss. And so I call it the kiss. And so you are going to want to hold your paint straight up and down at a 90, or you're going to hold your tool straight up and down at 90 degrees, and you're going to give it a little kiss. What you want to do is gently have that paint smush out slightly underneath, and then you lift up. And that's going to give you a perfect little dot. Now, if you squish, like if I stamp, that's what it's going to look like. We're going to try to avoid that. We want to gently kiss the surface. It's hard to show on camera. That's why I have that little image. So the paint squishes out. See how it squishes? And then you lift up. But my tool doesn't actually get pushed down on there and stamp. Okay. So if you want to try a few of those while I'm talking, you can go ahead and do that. So I'm going to continue yapping here about tools for a minute. So practice a few. You can practice on paper or just another surface if you want to. As far as dotting tools go, you need to know the size of your tools. There are lots of different tool sets. You can get generic sets on Amazon, or I've heard of people ordering from Temu and things like that. You can do that. A great beginner set is, Michael's has this. It's about $6 or $7. It's a Craft Mart set, and Michael's carries this in the same aisle with their craft paintbrushes. And it comes with some of the standard sizes. It's got the two types of tools that we use. It's got rods. These are cylinder tools. They're the same size on both ends typically. You hold them straight up and down at 90 degrees while dotting and lightly kiss the surface. You don't want to stamp hard. Don't smash your dots, okay? You need to dip the rods in the paint each and every single time you make a dot. Okay, these are called dotting rods. These are called styluses. And styluses are tools with a round ball at the end. And again, there's lots of different brands that you can get. Initially, these were designed for nail art, and eventually they got taken over by the dot art community because they work so perfect. You hold these just like you would hold a pencil. And so it doesn't matter if you hold it up at 90 degrees or if you hold it sideways, because that ball is round, it's going to make the same size dot. So you can hold these like a pencil. The trick with these, when we're making swooshes and swipes, and we'll work on that later in the week, the trick with these is not to vary your pressure. So you can hold these like a pencil. You hold the rods up and down at 90 degrees. So this is a sample size or sample set of dotting tools. There are some more expensive brands. Happy Dotting Company makes this set. This is what I use the most, and they're different sizes on the ends. There's another brand called Marks Mandalas. There's lots of different brands, and all of them are really good. So those are rods and styluses. When I first started dotting about 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago by now, I feel like time goes by so fast, I started using crochet hooks. So if you're an old school dotter, you probably know what I'm talking about. I used crochet hooks, or some other options if you don't have a dotting set is a metric drill bit set. They're marked in millimeters and they clean up easily because they're metal. They don't absorb the paint. Those are perfect as well. So you can use those. That's another option for you. So you will want a stencil, and tonight we are doing a snowflake shape. Actually, all week we're doing a snowflake shape. So there are different types of stencils. My favorite, this comes from Happy Dotting Company. It's a silicone stencil, so it cleans up really easily. There are some that you can get that are made out of mylar, just normal stencil material. But I also provided in an email and a Facebook group, I provided a template like this. We've got a few different options for the templates. I've got this one, it's a hexagon, and I've got this as well. So whichever makes the most sense for you, I'll show you how to transfer those. But you can print those off on a regular printer and use those to get started, so you don't have to have this stencil. Let's talk about some dots. So when you're dotting, there are things called base dots and top dots. So these would be my base dots. They are a first layer of dots for me. But there's something called top dots. And so top dots are where you go back in and you add a second layer. So if this is my base dot, I could get a smaller tool and I could add a top dot right on top. Rules for top dots, pretty much there are no rules except for you want to be able to see the dot underneath. So make sure that your tool is smaller than the dot underneath. And generally speaking, you want the first layer, your base dots, to be dry before you make top dots. I like to tell everybody who follows my workshops, top dots are totally your deal. It's a great way, especially if you're following other people's workshops or patterns. Top dots are a great way to make it and kind of change it a little bit. So top dots are usually centered, they're smaller than the base dot, and you can layer multiple layers of top dots. All you want to make sure that you do is dry the first layer before you work on top of it. There's also something called walking the dots. And so these are traditional dots that we make with the dotting tool. We dip once and we dot once. But there's something that we can do called walking the dots. And that's where you use a stylus. You dip once. And remember, it doesn't matter if you're holding the stylus at an angle or holding it straight up and down, however it's comfortable for your hand. But you dip once. And you can continue making dots without redipping, and that's called walking the dots. You can walk the dots in a straight line. You can walk the dots in a curved line. And so there's lots of fun different ways you can make patterns when you walk the dots. So those are something else that we're going to play with. So we learned about base dots, top dots, walking the dots, and you can practice these while I'm talking if you want to. There's something called a petal, and a petal is just a piece, an element of the design where we've got a dot and then we're focusing some of the other elements around it. That becomes a petal. And so, for example, if I want to turn this into a petal, I make my base dot, and then I can walk the dots around it. And I can do that multiple times or in different ways. I can add swipes and swoops and that kind of thing. And that turns it into a petal. And so that's how people make most traditional dot mandalas are made, using dots and patterns with petals. So there are other elements, swoops and swipes. We'll talk about those another day of the week. But that's pretty much where I'm going to let us leave off before we start with our design. So if you've been practicing dotting, go ahead and finish up where you are, or you can always pause me if you want to keep playing with your dots a little bit. I'm just going to get my paint out. I don't need black because that was my background color. So for this, I'm just going to get my blue, my white, and my glitter, and I'm going to put that in my little palette here. I haven't checked the comments in a while. Ooh, this is a good idea. Heather says, I line my paint trays with Glad press and seal. Easiest cleanup ever. Yes, that is a great idea. I had to share that because I hate washing my paintbrushes and my paint stuffs. So anything that saves me time, I am happy with. All right, so I've got my 3 paint colors out. I am going to show you how to transfer the stencil. And so you can choose whichever one you want. I think the one, I'm just going to cut mine out. I think the one with the, that looks like a pinwheel is the one I'm going to use. And I wanted to include all 3 because I realize, you know, everybody's brain works a little differently. So I'm just going to cut this out. And then what you want to do, I mentioned you want a ruler or a straight edge. When we're working with a square, you want to find your center, and the easiest way is just to go corner to corner. I mentioned to have a piece of chalk. There are other transfer tools that you can use. You can use a watercolor pencil. This is called a Stabilo All pencil. You can use a sewing pencil that you can get like at I was going to say Joann's, not anymore. In the sewing department, and these wash away with water. So lots of different options, but chalk is easy and cheap, so that's what I suggested for this. So to find the center of a square, you just go corner to corner and corner to corner, and that will give you your center. We know that this is where my center needs to be. To transfer a pattern, so whether you're using this one, which has more of the arms, or this one, you can just use a piece of chalk. You kind of scribble on the back chalk. We used to do this in elementary school and middle school all the time when we wanted to like draw something and we weren't good at drawing. We would use chalk. So you just scribble right on the back of that. And then you're going to line this up on center. Remember, I said this week we're practicing, so don't stress about it. And then you just go over it with a pen. And that transfers the lines. Now they're light when you do this with chalk, but you can always just go right over it, right? So I've got my 6 lines. I can erase the 2 that I made for the corner. What we want is our 6 snowflake lines. So that's how you can do the design or the stencil if you don't have a 6-arm stencil to work with. And when we're done, you can just, after the paint is dry, just use water and completely just wipe that away. But chalk is super easy to use. You can actually sharpen your chalk with a pencil sharpener. If you do that, I recommend just getting a pencil sharpener for that purpose, but that can help you make lines. I did this for a lot of the beginning when I started making hot mandalas, because chalk is so easy to wipe away. It's so easy to get rid of. So that's your stencil. You just want the 6 arms here. Again, the important thing is to find your center and get your 6 arms. And then we will move into the palette, or gosh, cannot talk tonight. We will move into the design. So I've got a lot of mess on my desk. This is what we're making. Let me shuffle my stuff off to the side here. All right. So actually, I can put this baby right on the screen. Let me get them up there. There we go. All right, so I mentioned you do need to know the size of your tools. If you don't have the same size that I have, that's fine. Go up or down a size. Use the next closest one. I just make up these patterns, so there's no right or wrong. There's nothing that says you have, if I use 8 millimeters, there's nothing that says you can use 10 millimeters or 6 millimeters, okay? If you want to create design step by step, you want to follow along with me. The important part here is that you're practicing placement. You'll come up with a similar design. If you accidentally put a dot in the wrong spot, that's okay. When we're making a mandala, we just want it to be symmetrical. So do the same thing all the way around. Nobody will know you didn't mean to do that. All right, so for my center dot, I am going to use an 8 millimeter tool and white. So we're going to dip in, hold it at a 90-degree angle, paint on there, want to have a little peak underneath, and then we're just going to dot right in the middle, straight up and down. Use your wrist to hold your hand steady. Give it a little kiss and then lift it up. That's your center dot. Next, I'm going to switch to a stylus, and I'm going to use a 1.5 millimeter. So if you have a stylus that has 2 ends, we're going to use a large end and a small end tonight. For me, my large end is 3 millimeters. My small end is 1.5. So I'm going to start with the small end. I'm going to use white, and we've got 6 lines. So I'm going to dip and put 1 dot on each of the 6 lines. Remember to dip each time. Dip and dot, dip and dot. And remember, you can hold the stylus like a pencil. It does not have to be straight up and down. Next, I'm going to use that same tool, the small end of my stylus, and I'm going to use my blue paint, and I'm going to dip and dot in the spaces. So I want it to be in the same ring, but halfway in between. So when we follow a pattern, usually it'll tell you whether it's every line, every space, or every line and space. Right now we're doing these in between. So we end up with 12 dots total, 6 white and 6 blue. All right, then I'm going to use the large end, 3 millimeters. And where I've got a white dot on the lines, I'm going to dip and dot a blue dot right next to it. So I'm going to go out to the next ring. So I'm going to dip in my paint, find my white dot on the line, and I'm going to start another ring right next to it. So find the white, another dot. So these go on the lines, 3 millimeters, dip and dot each and every time. Next, you want to grab a 6 millimeter tool. We're going to use our dotting rod, about 6 millimeters, and we're going to use white paint. Again, we're on the lines, so we're going to work another ring outward. You hold these at 90 degrees and just give it a gentle little kiss. One on every line. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to put some dots in the spaces. I want this to be in the same ring, so you don't have to mark this, but visually, you want to keep it in line with these white dots, okay? So I'm just marking it so you can see what I mean. And we're going to use a 4mm tool. And this is white paint. And so right in between, in the spaces, we're going to dip and dot, dip and dot. So we're going to have one in every space. Remember to breathe while you're dotting. That's one thing I struggle with, is I'll hold my breath to try to keep myself from moving. That is a very bad habit. Breathe while you dot. All right, next we're going back to the lines. White paint. I'm going to go up to an 8mm. So just to show you the difference in size, and why it's okay to be approximate. So 4mm is the small one, 6 is in the middle, and this is my 8. Or this is my 10. I got that wrong. 4, 6, and 8. There we go. To show you the size difference. So we're just going to go up in size to 8mm, white paint on the lines. Straight up and down, give it a little kiss. Got my little pattern here that I'm trying to mark off as I am working. All right. Next, I'm going to use a 10mm rod, white paint, and we're going to place one in the spaces. So this one is just slightly bigger than the 8mm. just to show you, this is what it looks like if you don't have enough paint. You're not going to get an evenly sized dot. So I just gently go over that one. I'm going to use the same tool, 10 millimeters and blue. And this time I'm going to place a blue dot in the space. So you'll see there's no line here. I'm just centering it right in that space, 10 millimeters, blue dot. Next, we're going to go back to working on the lines. I'm going to use a 4 millimeter tool. And I'm going to dip and dot 2 dots on the lines. So dip and dot, dip and dot. Dip and dot, dip and dot. All right, at the end of these lines, we are going to create a petal. And so on my original design, I used a 10 millimeter tool. This is where I'm going to give you a little bit of choice here. It depends on how much space you have. So if you've got a bunch of room, you could go up in size. You could use a 12 millimeter tool. If you're getting real close to the edge because you worked wider than I did, that's absolutely fine. You would just want to use a smaller tool. So the pattern calls for 10 millimeters in white paint. And on the lines, you're going to make a white dot, 10 millimeters. So one on each line, dip and dot, hold at a 90-degree angle. All right, for the next step, we're going to work next to these blue dots in the spaces, and we're going to do what is called a crown. I call it a triple dot crown when there's 3 dots. And so we're going to dip and dot, and then dip and dot again. And that creates a set of 3. That's called a crown. And so you're going to find your blue dot in the spaces. For this, I'm going to use white paint, and I'm going to use my small end of my stylus, 1.5 millimeters. So I'm going to dip and dot, and then dip and dot right in the middle, and it should look like a little triangle on the end. And so I'm going to do that next to every one of these blue. Dip and dot, dip and dot, dip and dot. And that is called a crown. I'm going to switch to the larger end of my stylus, 3 millimeters, and we're going to make a crown at the end of these white dots that fall on the line. So find your white dot, and this time we're going to use blue and the 3 millimeters. So dip and dot, and then dip and dot, and that makes a little crown on the end. So we're going to do this for every one of the lines next to every one of those large white dots. All right, we have one more step for the base of the design, and that is walking the dots. And that is where I showed you, you dip once and you dot multiple times. So we are going to turn this last piece with the blue crown into a petal. I'm going to use the small end of my stylus, 1.5 millimeters, and white paint. I'm going to dip once, and then I'm going to walk the dots around this circle. I can fit 7 there comfortably. You might have a different spacing, but just count out how many dots there are and then repeat that on both sides of the design. And that turns it into a petal. So you dip once, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I do the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Remember, you're not varying the pressure. You can completely touch your canvas. The paint will run out naturally and change the size. So when we walk the dots, you're just stamping with that stylus, and it naturally gets smaller. So this is the base of the first sign here, and for many, many years, I created dot mandalas with just these elements, with the dots, and I turned them into petals, and it was very basic and still made lots of really beautiful things. So if you're starting dot art, if this is new to you, don't feel like you have to do all these fancy brush strokes and a whole lot of really complicated things. Just by combining and changing the placement of these dots, by using different stencils. So tonight we use arm stencil. There are 5 arm stencils. 8 arm stencils. Just by changing the amount of arms, it changes the design. There's lots of different things that you can do. So uh, that is the base. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to give this a little dry. I'm going to come back in 4 to 5 minutes and then I'm going to do top dots. So you want to dry your design. Now, if you don't have, I use a hair dryer. This is actually a curling dryer thing where the air blows out the end. You can use a regular hair dryer. What I do in my classes, if I'm teaching in a studio, is I just tell people to kind of fan it up and down. Of course, there's always somebody who throws it across the room accidentally, so don't do that. But you just need a little bit of air movement. We want to dry this base layer so we can do some top dots. So I'll be back in about 3 to 4 minutes and we'll continue. If you need a bathroom break, need to grab a drink, go ahead and do that. Right, so we finished the base design, and what we're going to do now is top dots. So I'm going to walk you through what I did for top dots, and of course, a few things I want to mention. In this design, there's lots of negative space, lots of background. If you want to elaborate on that, you can do that. There's no rules here. You don't have to follow exactly as I do and then stop. If you want to add more dots, feel free to do that. Remember, when we're making a mandala, we just want it to be the same all the way around. So you can make your own pattern on here if you want to continue a little bit. Also with top dots, you can do as I do, or you can do your own thing. So don't be afraid to change it up if you want to, but I'll walk you through what I'm going to do. All right, so for the first top dot, I'm going to get a 4mm tool, and I'm going to do a blue dot in the center. So blue, I'm going to go nice and slow so it's centered, and I'm going to place that right in the middle there. I'm going to continue using blue and 4mm, and I'm going to go out to row 1, 2, 3, where we've got this ring of large and small white dots. On the lines, on the large dot, I'm going to put this 4mm blue right on top. I'm going to do this on all of the lines. So I'm going to skip the ones in the spaces. I'm going to use the 4mm tool, and this time I'm going to use my glitter. Typically when I do a glitter dot, I like to have a color behind it because glitter paint, all glitter paint is basically clear acrylic paint with the mica or the glitter suspended in it. And typically there's no color to the actual paint medium. So we're going to put this glitter on these white dots in the same ring, but these dots are in the spaces. So 4mm glitter paint on those in-betweeny dots. And while you're working on that, I'm just going to highlight something here. So Tina asked, what do you use for cleaning cloths to wipe your tools in between? I use paper towels ripped in half, but it's kind of wasteful. I use baby wipes to clean my tools. And then when I clean off the chalk lines, I use a microfiber cloth, which Heather says she uses fiber cloth. So the beautiful thing about microfiber is that it's not going to leave all those little dusty things on there. So I do have this is a microfiber eyeglass cleaning thing, and you can see I've used it on my art because it's got stuff on it, but that's great for getting those lines off. Sometimes I will use baby wipes for my big pieces, but I find it does leave like little fibers. Same thing with paper towels. You can use a wet paper towel. All right, next we are going to go out one ring. I'm going to use a 6mm dotting rod, and next to the gold in the spaces we've got a white dot. I'm going to put a blue dot on top of that white dot. So 6mm blue in the spaces. And then right next to this white and blue dot that we just did, we've got this blue dot with a crown on it. I'm going to use that 6mm tool and my glitter. We're going to have a 6mm glitter dot right on top of there. All right, next I'm going to get my small stylus, 1.5mm. We're going to work on the lines this time. So what I want you to do is find your center, and we're going to go out where we've got the petals, the large petals on the lines. We're going to have this white and blue top dot, no top dot, and then right here, we're going to put a blue top dot. So on every line, we've got white and blue, white, and white and blue. And then lastly, at the end of these petals, on the lines, in the same lines that we've been working on, I'm going to take a 6mm rod and top dot the petal on the end. And that is the base design and the top dots. So we are finished for tonight. I did mention that I would tell you what to do to enter for the giveaway. For this one, I am going to mail out, this is a little bird stone that you can dot on. This was made from a Devon dotting mold, and he's super cute. Beep, beep. So if you want to win this cute little bird that you can make dot mandalas on, share in the group, share what you made. That's all you have to do. I will pick a winner by noon tomorrow. So noon on Tuesday, post it in the New Year New Hobby workshop group for everyone to see. And I will pick random at noon tomorrow. So what you're going to do now is just let this dry. I would recommend letting it dry at least several hours. A lot of times I'll just leave it overnight, and then you can wipe off the chalk markings and they should come right off. Tomorrow we've got another design, and I'll tell you, on the first day of anything that I do new, I'm always super nervous. And I don't know if you could tell, but I calmed down quite a bit when I was dotting. Dotting calms me down so much. But tomorrow I'll be a little less spastic in the beginning when we start. But we will have a video that I will drop the link to in the group at the same time every day. Wednesday we'll have a live, Thursday's a recording, and then Friday live. So that's how we're going to do things. But we'll have giveaways every day, and we'll do lots of fun stuff. And I can't wait to see what you create. So I'm for you tonight. Thank you, everyone who joined. There were a lot of you who hopped on tonight, so I super appreciate you. Can't wait to see what you've made. And remember, we are working with the basics here. A lot of people who have joined have never dotted before. And we don't have a lot of the fancy tools. If you can dot the basics, it gets even easier from here as you use stencils and you pick out the tools and the paint that you love. So from here on, it just gets easier. So thank you so much for joining. I will see you tomorrow, and I can't wait to see what you've created tonight.